everyone, welcome to Eden's Secret. I've got quite a few Battenberg videos, but I didn't realise I've never actually shown you how I make it. It's one of the first cold process soap cakes I ever did, and it was my original idea. People have copied it over the years, which is fine. But it was my creation. I'll pop the recipe down in the description box for you. If you're using my full recipe, you're going to need 4 2-kilo jugs for the first part. If you half it though, you'll only need 2 2-kilo jugs. 2 kilos is £4 roundabout if you are overseas. So what we're going to do is we need to split it into 2 colours. So seems to be some rose petals in there. I don't know how they've got in there. There. Right, so I just want to make sure there's exactly the same quantity in each. So that's 1.1. No, I'm in a litre. I want 2 litres of each colour. Now normally what you would do is just split all of the recipe into 2 colours, but I want to save a little bit because I haven't finished the red dots on my poinsettia cupcakes, so that's why I've put a little bit back in the bowl, in the pot. Right. Put a tiny little bit more in there. So we need our colour. Just the tip of a teaspoonful in each of the yellow, and the same with the pink, because I don't want it to be too bright. And it doesn't matter if you don't get the amount exact in each, because you're going to mix them. If you haven't got, if you're doing half a recipe though, it won't matter because you've only got 1 pot of each colour. So we're just putting our fragrance in now, about 30 mils into each. The yellow first. Oops, I forgot, we need some TD in there as well. So I've got some titanium dioxide already mixed. about a teaspoonful between the 4 containers. And then what you're going to do is you're going to mix the two because you want them to be identical. So just mix them up like this. That'll get the colours exactly the same and the fragrance content exactly the same, just in case you didn't get them. And then do the same with your yellow. Just wipe up the mess there, because it does make a little bit of a mess. And then take your 2 loaf moulds like this. You need 2 loaf moulds. We're going to pour the pink into one and the yellow into another. These loaf moulds, I had them made at a local wood maker, and the silicone liners are from Brambleberry. I don't think they do them anymore exactly like these. They're a little bit thicker so they don't flop over, so they're probably better than these ones. I think Katie from Royalty Soaps, I think she's got the newer ones. But they last for years and years and years and years if you look after them. And I haven't ever had to replace them. And obviously I make thousands and thousands of soaps in them. Right, so that's it for now. You just leave those overnight. Leave them to totally saponify overnight or for 24 hours. And with my recipe, you should be able to unmold them no problem in 24 hours. Maybe even sooner if you want, but I just would, it's just the way I do it, leave them overnight. There's plenty of other things I can do while I'm waiting for them. Sorry about the light, it's a bit weird today. The sun's shining right through the window, so it's not the best light. Right, next step we'll be cutting these. Okay, so the next step is unmolding the soap. So the beauty with these moulds is you just tip them upside down take off the skin. And that's it, you got a perfect loaf there. Do the same with the other one. Smells delicious. Just gorgeous almond and marzipan notes. Right, now what we're going to do next is we're going to cut these into long oblong shapes. I'm just scraping off the edge there. This is it's not a hard thing to do, but it's the bit I dislike doing the most in this soap. Because I've got my soap cutter here, and it would be fantastic if the soap fit onto there, but it doesn't. It's too long. So what I have to do is just cut it in half, and it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be perfectly in half. Actually, I need to do something else first before I do that. So we've got our pink and our yellow, and what I need is to cut it into squares. So we'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 squares out of each one, which will make 3 loaves. And I need my ruler for this part. Now the width of the soap is 3.6 inches, so I need to do 1.2, a mark at 1.2, and then another mark at 2.4, and then do the same at the other end. And what we're going to do then is we're going to take the ruler. I need to put another one in the middle. So that's going to give us 3 long chunks of soap. So what we're going to do is just line those up. put the marks on there, all you're doing is just scoring it so that you can see. On both of the scoring lines. So I'll hold it up so you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, all evenly spaced. I'll do exactly the same with the yellow. Then what you're going to do is just chop the soap in half. It doesn't have to be perfect, as I said before. Then we're going to pop the soap onto the chopper, and where your wire is at one end, you will put your wire exactly where the mark is, the line on the soap. So we're going to cut down here and cut down this one. And then we're going to do exactly the same again. Just keep them together so you know where which piece belongs where. It just seems to come in easier for later on, because the squares don't always turn out exactly the same. Okay, so that's our loaves chopped into lengths. Now what we need to do is turn them over and cut straight down the middle here, and that'll give us our squares. So you can chop 2 at a time. So I'm just going to take that one off. Here. Now you can score it if you want to. I'm just doing this part by eye. I'm going to cut this one on its own. So there you go. You see, we've now got a long square piece that'll go into make our Battenberg shape. It's very easy to get these mixed up and end up with put this one here or down here. So I'm trying my best to make sure I've got them exactly where I want them. Right, so the next part, you've got your pink and you've got your yellow like this. Now I didn't need that to happen. So that's it, it's gone wonky already. Right, so we're going to take the ones that are on the top, I want to keep those on the top. So I'm just going to pop those. I know this is starting to sound complicated, and it doesn't need to be as complicated as I'm making it sound. So these are the bottoms. So we're just going to space those out like this, and then we're going to move the yellow into position like this, and then we're going to do exactly the same but the other way around. So on top of the pink we're going to put the yellow, and on top of the yellow we're going to put the pink. So what you're hoping is that it's all the same height. It's a little bit high at that end, so I'll probably just scrape a little bit off here. And so you end up, that's your Battenberg look. So we're going to get 3 loaves out of this. Now if they're looking a bit high, you can just, oh, it's even higher if I do that. But what happens if I do that? Ah, that makes those the same height. So if I do the same with this, they're all around about the same height. So let's try turning one of these over. And same at the other end. That's it, more or less perfect. The only one that's standing up a bit higher than any others is this one here. So I'm just, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just going to scrape a little bit of that off. And there you go. So the next part is just take the same moulds that you were using. No need to wash them out because they've had the same fragrance in there. And that's your 3 moulds ready to go. So I'm just going to clean this off this one. Right, now it's time to mix up some more soap butter. Okay, so the next step, in the 3 loaf moulds, we want to pour a shallow layer of just plain cream soap. So I've already added some titanium dioxide, and I'm going to do 400 mils in each one, and I'm going to do them separately. Because, well, it's just easier to do it like that than make 1200 mils and pour 400 mils into each. I just find it easier that way. Now I've already put the titanium dioxide into the soap batter, and that's because I need all of the soap that's around the Battenberg, the pink and the yellow, I need it all to be exactly the same colour. If you pour 400 and then put some TD in and then keep doing, you might put too much in, so you'll end up with different densities of TD. Actually, I think it's going to be 500. Sorry, that sun's blazing in again. Just give it a tap down just to try and make it as level as possible. Now, while that is setting up, we're going to spray the pink and yellow pieces with some, what's it called? Alcohol, rubbing alcohol. So we'll start with the first lot. Just space them out like that. They're nice and soft anyway, so they don't need too much spraying. And this will just help these blocks stick to the soap that you've poured in there. Don't use water, because I've used water in the past. I mean, it might not for you, but for me it went rancid. In the olden days, when I first started making soap, I didn't ever used to use a rubbing alcohol. I didn't think it was necessary, but it actually is. It's great. So you can see in here, this first one, it's set up already. So I'm going to put the first colour in there like that. Make sure you've got a gap right down the side, a gap in the middle, and then a gap on the end as well. So just press them slightly, not too hard, all I'm trying to do is make sure there's no air bubbles in between the colour and the blocks. And then the same with the next one, that's ready to go. And you need a decent well in between each colour so that when you pour the soap on top, it pours down in there and then down these sides here. Now while I'm doing this, I started to discuss people copying, and of course I said I don't mind people copying, and I don't, as long as you're not going to steal my whole brand and copy all my soaps and then create a brand that looks exactly like mine. But I'm not even asking for you know, if you copy a soap, you don't need to say, oh, this is Karen's from Even Secret, I got this idea from her. But what I don't like is when people steal your idea and then claim it as their own. I don't like that. This soap, I created all the soaps that you see, most of them around the internet, before, I don't know, say 2009, people weren't actually making soaps like this. So I was one of the first that started making soaps look really pretty. Apparently before that it was just like textured tops and things like that. Maybe embeds. I only know that because a soaper who's been around for a long time told me that. Anyway, this absolutely was my creation, and I can't even remember who the person was, but someone made it. Someone made this soap, and the cake, Battenberg cake, is actually made by Mr. Kipling. That's the brand. We're talking about the real cake here. And they saw this person's Battenberg and it was identical to this, exactly the same. And they got this great write-up from Mr. Kipling. But the person that made it never said where they got the idea from or anything, so that wound me up a little bit, shall we say. I wasn't mad, but it just did cut to the core a little, shall I say. So that's the kind of thing I don't like. Copying and then claiming as your own. And I'm sure most soap makers would say the same. I know I saw something else somewhere where someone's been making soaps for quite a while, and you know, most of the ideas they've gotten from other soapers around the internet because they're making them in the same style that we're making them in. And then they came up with this idea that they thought was fantastic, and everybody thought was fantastic actually, but they actually started saying, please don't copy this. And I thought, like, you've basically copied everything really. and now because you found one original idea, you don't want anyone to copy it. I thought that was a bit silly as well. So that's that for now. Actually, we are ready to move on to the next step. So I'm just going to move those up there. And this time I'm going to mix probably 1200, no, not 1200. Do you know, I feel like they need to be pushed down a bit. But they're not going to. They're solid there. So I'm just going to pour 1 kilo into here. Get some of the fragrance in there. Giving a mix, so you need it to be rather fluid to be able to do this part. So what you're going to do is pour it down there. So that it goes down all 3 edges, and just keep pouring it until it's level. And give it a tap if you're not sure. Yeah, it needs a bit more down this edge. And just do the same with all 3. Probably going to need more soap mixing up. Yeah, I haven't mixed enough. Right, so then what you're going to do is you're going to take your soap and you're going to lay the logs on. If you're not sure what colour went on the inside, just scrape it a little bit like that, just to make sure you haven't made a mistake. And you're putting pink, you don't want to put pink on top of pink. You want to put yellow on top of pink and pink on top of the yellow. So that's exactly what we're doing now. So there you go, there's your colours all lined up, and we're going to mix some more batter, and we're going to pour that on top of here so it too flows into the wells. So that's what it's looking like. Now it doesn't take so much this part to fill it up. Right, so let's just pour this. I could have done with trimming these yellow blocks down, yellow and pink blocks down, because they're actually protruding out of the top of the silicone mould, and I don't want that, but it'll still be okay. The reason it'll make it more difficult because it'll stick to the wood and it'll be harder to get out of the mould, but it's okay because you can just slide a knife down there. I feel like this one needs moving over a bit. So you can see exactly what's happening there. And giving it a tap will just make sure you've got no air bubbles in there. So with the soap that we've got left over, we'll just let it thicken up, and then we'll spoon it on the top and put some sort of pattern on there and a little bit of glitter. Okay, so the soap has thickened up a little bit now, and so I'm just going to spoon that onto here. I'm not putting too much on because I don't want it to be too high. and just take a spoon and spread it out a bit. Try not to let any of your colour show through, because you really need the soap to fully coat the colours. So it'll probably take you 2 days to make this. It might even take 3, because you might need 2 days before you can unmold it, because the soap, there's so much soap in there, it's like almost like it's overfilled, and it'll be a little harder to unmold, but you could always you know, the longer you wait, the more it'll shrink away from the sides and it'll be easier to unmold. That's it, nice pretty design on the top. And then let's sprinkle it with just some white glitter, Disco Mix from Glitter Express. Right, let's get this cut. Okay, so we've got the soap unmolded. I've already cut 2 loaves up, and I thought I don't want to bore you with cutting 3 loaves, but we'll cut this one together, shall we? So I'm just going to cut through that. Now it doesn't have to be right in the middle. I've cut this one shorter than this one, and that is what it looks like inside. Now you think of the hundreds of times I've made this soap, I would have got these in the correct position, but I never seem to manage to do that. So also the bottom, I should have done 400 mils rather than 500, and that would have given us a perfect height. As it is, because I made this too thick, maybe even go with 300 or 350 mils, then that wouldn't have pushed these squares up so high. So they're actually too high, but it doesn't matter because it's still a lovely soap. But that is if you wanted it to be perfect. So now we've got our cutter out, which is from the mould shop. And we're going, see, this is an end piece, but if you turn it round, that's your soap inside. So we'll just take the soap over to the cutter and pop it on there. the wire cutters really are great. And there you go, that's what it looks like. It'll just get a bit of a tidy up. You see how much neater, I don't know if you can see, how much neater it is cutting it with the wire. That's the wire side cut, and then this side it's actually got drag marks off the knife, because when you push it down then pull it back up, it tends to drag the soap up. But it doesn't matter, because if you've got that on there, you just give it a nice little scrape and that smooths it off. I'm going to get one of those cutters that you just, one wire, and you just pull it down like that and lift it up, instead of using this great big cutter. For me, really, this is just for cakes. Or your big square moulds, which obviously the loaf fits onto here fantastically well. If you've got a big square loaf out of the, what they're called, I can't remember, the big square mould that we use, that I got from the mould shop, that fits on here beautifully, so that enables you to cut it into long loaves, so it's also perfect for that. But I've wanted one of those single cutters for ages. It just takes up less space, that's all. I'm running out of, well, I run out of space ages ago for my soap room. When you're running a business from home, then practically, if you haven't got a big house, all the house is taken up with boxes of this and boxes of that, and then your garage is full of stuff. And they're like the things you only use occasionally. Like I've got a big box of silicone moulds. I've got 2 cupboards in here that have the silicone moulds in. They're the ones I use regularly. But I've got a big box of other moulds in the garage. They're the ones that I don't use regularly. So there's all that kind of stuff. I've got bottles and jars and boxes, and I bought these stunning cupcake boxes. They're absolutely beautiful, and I cannot find them anywhere. It's driven me mad. So I've bought some new ones, and in the new year, well, actually from now, I'm going to start packaging the cupcake soaps in those cupcake boxes. If you're buying retail, if you buy wholesale, then obviously you don't get the boxes, but retail, I'm just cutting this little, because this slice isn't big enough for a loaf. Right here, this is something interesting. Can you see that little gap there? That's where the soap hasn't been pressed down properly onto the soap below. But it's only literally one slice. Well, it affects 2 slices, but you can actually easily fill that in. So if you take some of your soap off one of your edge pieces, you can actually fill that hole in. Takes a little bit of a, what I call a frig on. But there, that's your hole filled. So it's not totally useless. But these edge pieces like this, these go great as like a free sample when people place orders. I'll just cut that into 2, but I would also cut that in half as well, because it's actually, they're really good size samples. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to tidy up those edges, which I know you've seen me do many times, but I think I find it quite therapeutic, and I think people like watching it as well. So let's do that. It just tidies the soap up so much more. And you don't have to throw these bits away. You can keep them to put in use as shreds in another soap. Oh, I just wanted to go back to the copying issue that I was talking about before. Don't get too worried if people copy you, because I've actually found over the years eventually they do start getting their own ideas, and some people have just, to me, far surpassed anything I can do. When you look at the pictures on Instagram, it's like, it's amazing. And I think it was Katie from Royalty Soaps who said recently, someone that just copies everything, they'll never be ahead of the game. You will always be ahead of the game, because you're the one that's creating all these new ideas, and they will always just be following a lead and never be original. So when Katie said that, I was nodding my head. I'm sure I've said that before in videos as well. So she's absolutely right. Of course, Katie's absolutely right. And she's doing so, it's just absolutely incredible what Katie's doing. She's done so well. She must be raking the money in now. I know, like, Americans really like to spend. They just love to spend. Where it's a bit different in this country. People are definitely more careful in the UK. I mean, I have a lady that had a shop in Washington, Bellevue, Washington. She left there. She came back to England to live, and she just cannot believe the difference, because she sells my soaps. She cannot believe the difference in the way people spend. I totally agree with her. So don't forget, that's one of the reasons why I've brought out this one slice of soap shipping for overseas. So if you want to buy just one bar, you can. But if you're placing orders on the website, there are loads of shipping options now. Just please make sure that you have the correct shipping, because I absolutely hate having to go and say to people, I'm just not a money chaser, and I hate having to go and say to people, oh, you've added $14.99, the correct shipping for your country is actually $24.99 or whatever. Or people will place a wholesale order and add a very small shipping charge, but I cannot foot the shipping on wholesale. So I'd just be really grateful if you make sure you add the correct shipping. The other thing is please make sure you add your email address and phone number. And that's not for me, that's for the courier. The courier needs that. When I'm creating the shipping, the website won't even take your order. If not my website, when I'm booking the shipping company, their website won't even add your shipping option if your phone number and email address aren't added. And the only reason they need it, for no other reason, you're not going to be bombarded with sales calls or anything like that, and especially not from me, because it's just not something I do. I like people to feel free when they're buying from me, but the only reason they need it is in case they have a problem finding you. They might be en route to your house and just be struggling to find it, so they'll give you just a quick ring to say, I've got your parcel but I'm struggling to find your house, which actually happens here at my house all the time. When I'm getting orders delivered, there's so many different shipping companies. The sat-nav actually sends them down the village, and we're actually, so it sends them to the south of the village, and we're actually on the east of the village. And so I always have to stay on the phone and give them directions to find me. So that's the only reason that we need those, the phone number and your email address. That's all. Okay, so also don't forget that our 2018 sale has begun. 20% off all products, every product that's in the listings on the website. You do 20% off. Use the coupon code SOAPMASS, SOAPMASS. It is in capital letters. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but just try it anyway. So there we go. This is our beautiful Battenberg cake, an original Eden Secret soap. Have a great run up to Christmas, everyone. I'll see you very soon for another video. Bye bye for now.